So you have everything uploaded on your S drive. So you probably should just leave it in one folder and just keep all your footage together in that one place, because Premiere Pro links your footage. So if it cannot locate that footage and you start moving it around or you delete it, then you will not have a sequence or your timeline set, and it'll show a crazy error in your Premiere Pro. So make sure you have all your footage in one area, and don't move them around. If you do move them around, you can link it back, and I'm sure someone could help you, or you could also Google how to do that. But just make sure you have all your stuff together, and do not delete any of your footage, because otherwise you're going to have to re-upload it. And if you delete it completely, then you can't use that clip at all. Okay, so when you first open Premiere Pro, this is what the window is going to show. It'll have two options on here. It'll say New Project or Open Project. Obviously, if you're starting your new project, you would click this, and it's going to give you more options to have it set either on HDV, High Definition Video, or DV. Most camera phones record DV. So you might have the options to record HDV if you have 1080p or higher, but DV should be fine with your video editing. It's not a huge difference. It's just you won't have like 4K video when you export. So those are going to be the two options. How you have it set, DV should be fine. Okay, this is the most important part to remember. Shortcuts are life for video editing. If you look at your keyboard and you see I know, they're right next to each other, that's going to be very helpful when you're editing videos and cutting clips. I is in, O is out, spacebar is to push play, which is universal for anything. So if you watch YouTube videos, spacebar is the same way to work that. Comma is to insert a clip into your timeline, which I will demonstrate here in a second. As far as transitions goes, you would try to keep them as simple as possible. A common rule of third, or a common rule that you would hear, or inside joke within like the video editing community, is that you could tell an amateur by the kind of transition they use. So if you use like star swipe, might be a little too much unless it's intended to be funny. But a simple crossfade transition would be the best route to go when inserting transition into your clips. Of not just a simple jump cut, meaning you don't add a transition at all, is very effective as well. Also keep in mind that in your effects panel, there's other options for audio effects and visual effects. So if you have a problem with a shaky video, there's a stabilizing effect that you can add over your entire clip. Or if you need your volume to be a lot louder or crisper, there's an effect that you could use for that as well. So you can look through your effects panel and look through all the folders and see what you like, and what would be best to use. Otherwise, what you have and just using transitions is effective. Last thing, creating ID or titles to ID people, which is also called lower thirds, which is, there's not an example up here to show, but if there is a person being introduced in a video and you would see usually their name and their role, job role or their title right next to them, that's what a lower thirds is. Using the text tool to add that is a lot better than just having the person be like, hi, my name is blah, 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 and I am blah, blah, blah. You can cut that completely out and using a title to introduce the person that way. I am just like blasting through this. Okay. Exporting. So when you are exporting, you're going to click File, Export Media, and I will demonstrate this in a second once I get my clips in. And then you're going to see this box show up. Right here it says formats. I would change it to H.264 because that's best for exporting a compacted MP4 file. Plus it works really well when you upload to YouTube. When you change this to H.264, your presets are going to automatically change to this correct preset for that format. So do not change this, otherwise things start to get a little crazy. Where this blue is highlighted, where it says output name, it's probably going to say sequence 01 for you. If you double click that, another dialog box will show up and you have the options to change the name and also send it or save it wherever you need to save it, like save it to your desktop or in a certain folder. So that's how you set that, so you know where you're exporting at. make sure your export video and export audio are both selected. And then this right here shows how long your video is. So you could see a little triangle at the end of each of these, and you can see that this video is about 1:05 seconds. So if you know that your video is about 2 minutes and it only shows 1 minute on there, just drag this little triangle all the way to the end, and it'll highlight or export the entire video. This little blue cursor is your play button, so you could watch exactly what's going to be exported before you export if you want to do that, and it'll show right here. And then you will click export, not queue. Queue is an entirely different thing, so do not hit queue and then let it queue and then exit out of everything, because you did not export. So it is export. You will click export and it will export. It'll take a couple of minutes. Just remember that the longer the video, the longer it takes to export, so just keep in mind with time for that. If you want to work on your project and use media encoder, you can, but otherwise, if you're having a minute-long video, it'll probably take about 4 minutes to export, so you shouldn't take too long as far as that goes. Now I'm gonna go to Premiere Pro and kind of show. So this is the dialog box that I showed in the slide previously. So for you, you're gonna create a new project, and then this is your scratch disk. Your video is gonna automatically save. And you could send it to, send that autosave to a certain area. So if you want to save it to a certain place, that way you can find it, you can. But otherwise, how it's already set is pretty easy to find if that's the case. But I would just say name this however you want and then hit OK, and you should be fine. Okay, so you have a whole bunch of windows here. This is your preview window. This is your final viewing window of your final clip. This is your timeline where you have your sequence and where you'll see your final cuts of video, and this is your media browser and other type of things in here. There's all kinds of stuff in here. So first I'm gonna upload or import the clips. The easiest way to do that is just to go to File, Import. Okay, so File, Import, and then you find your clips. You can highlight them all and just hit Open, and they will show up here. So this is where you will see all your clips. This includes stills. This also includes graphics. Let's say you want to add a business logo vector into your video. You will also upload it in here, and that also includes music. So if you want to upload music, it will be also in the same place. So just File, Import, you'll find everything in here. So if I double click one of these clips, it's going to show on my view window, and this is where you're going to basically do your editing. So I hit spacebar, I will listen to what I want, hit I, and then O, and now I have this selected area. So that's why I say I and O is a lot easier to control versus using these tools right here, just because you're a lot quicker with your hands versus like trying to click back and forth with this. So let's say I want this clip into my sequence, and as you can tell, it says you need to drop media to create sequence. You can just drop this in here. The other option is to grab one of your clips and hover over this little piece of paper, and it'll automatically create a sequence with adding that clip, and you could use that clip entirely or not. The reason why I do it that way is just that it's gonna use the dimensions of the video that you recorded. If you use multiple phones that have multiple sizes, it might show up in here in a different, like it might have a different size. If that's the case, you could go into File, New Sequence, and then set up a dimension that you choose. Also, this is very helpful if you decide to make a video for a certain size for a social media platform. So this is where you would actually do that. But if not, for the sake of this video or demonstrations, just grabbing one of your clips and hovering over this paper where it says new item, and it'll create a sequence that fits to the dimensions you have. So I have my highlighted thing. Now I want to insert it. There's a couple ways of doing that. You could click on this button, which is also clicking comma, and it'll show on here. There's these bubbles in the bottom, and if you like zoom in and or move it left to right, it's either zooming in and out. So I like to keep it like kind of in the middle so I can see what I'm working with. The other option is if you want a little bit more control where you place your clip that you wanted to highlight or what that you wanted, you could click and hold on the area, and you'll see that little hand that shows up, and you could drag it and kind of place it where you want. So let's say this is a clip that's intended for the end of the video, you could move it towards the end. Once you put it in your timeline, it is not set in stone. There's other options to continue to edit a video once you're in here. One of the options is if you hover over the edge, you'll see this red arrow, and you could go left or right, and to make it crop it or to make it longer. Let's say you needed like a slight second out of that, so you could go like that and it'll crop it. The other option is to use your razor blade tool, which is right here, and you could use it to cut an area, and you could go back to your select tool and you could delete the area that you didn't want. Let's see what else. The other thing, so like there's a lot of space here, and you can just manually move things around, but as you can see, I just accidentally overwrote over an area. Wow, that's really hard to say. So what you can do for a quick trick is if you click in the middle and it'll highlight and you hit delete, it'll snap it into that area. So you're just having that quick connection between the two clips without actually trying to move things manually. So my biggest recommendation is that you go from clip to clip and you watch it through this view window, and you just continue to I and O, and then you insert it and you just keep building that way. That's probably the easiest way to edit. Obviously there is no right way to edit. This is just the most effective way for me personally, and what I've seen most common for a lot of people. I have seen people, let me just shift and delete all these. I have seen people like pull in an entire clip and they just edit within the timeline. The only problem with that is that there's only so much space you could see here, and you're gonna have to constantly like make it smaller and bigger. So you can theoretically just go in here and cut and listen, like watch it through this window and cut the parts that you don't want, and build that way. But the I and O system is probably the fastest and the most effective. So you could go click on any video. I already have that video. Go here. Nope. That's weird. Click on any video and then hit spacebar, I and O, and wherever you hit I and O, it'll readjust for you. So you can leave your cursor wherever you end, and let's say you hit I and O there, and you want to start the next I and O somewhere else. You could do that. So you could do really quick editing just using I and O and then hitting comma. And as you can see, I'm like building pretty quickly that way. Also keep in mind where this cursor is at. So if you have this place there and you hit I and O and hit insert, it's going to insert in that area. So just to avoid any overwriting, just always have your cursor, your thing at the very, very end of your sequence. Okay, some other quick tools that you should probably know about is text. There's a text type tool here, and the way to use that is you actually make a text box on your final video viewfinder right here. So you make a text box, and you could write whatever you want. I'm just gonna write random things, and it's gonna create its own little thing right here. So you can move this around, and you can place it so that it's like playing over a certain clip at a certain time. You could also cut that, like how you would cut the video, and get rid of it, make it shorter, faster, it doesn't matter. To edit it again, you always have to be on that tool, so you could go back and edit it. And if you want to do like a certain font or certain color, what you would have to do is, let's change this to editing mode. Okay. It also helps to have your mode at editing. Learning is very basic, but editing will have more options. So if you want to change your font to a certain color, if you go over to the effects control, you'll see a whole bunch of options for like the font type, whether it's centered, the colors right here, where it's placed. There's a whole bunch of things on here. So that's under the effects control. Otherwise, you could go back to your source and you could see like your view. So you could go bounce between those two and do that between that. Let's see what else. If you go to the effects tab, you'll see, it's a little slow. you'll see this, what I was talking about in my slides is that you'll see a whole bunch of folders for different effects. So video transitions, if you go in here, there's a whole bunch of transitions. I just recommend using the cross dissolve, and the way this works is that you just click and drag and you put it in between your clips, and you'll see it like show up in between your two clips. Obviously this transition is very long. You can edit the transition so that it's a lot shorter, and it also shows up in the effects control how I had it previously, but you can make it shorter. But that's how you insert that, and you can do that with any of your other effects. If you want like an audio effect, you could, there's a lot in here. Amplify, you can add it to your audio and it'll amplify. Another way to quickly work on your audio though, especially that a lot of you probably recorded with your phone, the audio is probably not as strong. It's gonna make it this big. If you hover under A1 where your audio 1, and also just keep in mind that this is video 1, video 2, video 3, audio 1, audio 2, audio 3. Where you place things, that's totally up to you. Just keep in mind whatever's on top is what's going to show over the clip that's there. So if you have a video clip up here versus and one down there, it's going to show this one instead of this one. So just keep that in mind. But where you place things is not really, it's just entirely how you want to have things organized. But if you hover over audio 1, you'll see that I could expand this, and now I could see my audio a lot better. This line in the middle is actually your volume, so if I bring this all the way up, that's how you make your volume a lot louder. Same if you could bring this all the way down, that's another way to do that. So let's say you have, if you're working with B-roll, or you have a clip where someone's talking and then you have a clip where you're not talking at all and you want the music to be louder, that's how you could adjust that. You can make cuts individually on here and raise the volume up for this section and have this one lowered since there's no talking, and vice versa. So that's how you could play around with that. So just remember that you could expand your audio 1 and it'll show it better there. So right now we have just a really short video. I'm gonna pause it. Okay, so I'm just gonna delete this for a second. Is there not? Okay. Let's say if you want to do a lower thirds, and then so you want to just say like the brand of this lime juice, and you want to insert it on here. So I'm gonna create a text box. I'm gonna name it as like lime. I can't type, this is shifted, juice. And let's say I'm just gonna make this, I don't know, any color. Let's say I have, you know, this text box. I'm gonna place it, I don't know, like, yeah, let's put it like right here. And then I'm gonna make this shorter because I want it only on a certain part. I'll use actually this. I'm gonna make it shorter because I only want it in a certain part of this video. So as you can tell, I have it introduced right there, and then it'll go away. I'm gonna add another clip to the end of this so that it's longer. Alright, so I'm introducing lime juice. It comes in, it'll go away, and then it has that. You could also add a transitions to the end of this. So if you go back to the effects panel, slow, and then go to video transition, you can have a lot smoother transition of that disappearing if you add it to the end of this. Again, you could also adjust the transition so that it's shorter and it does not have like such a long transition coming in or out. Okay, so I'm going to do a really quick recap of how you just edit two videos together. So I'm going to delete this so I can have a clear timeline, and I can just show you real quickly how to do the I and O and how it could be effectively used into adding into your timeline. So I have my clip. I'm going to hit space bar, and you could, like, you know, push play as much as you want so you could have it exactly. I'm going to cut it right there. So it actually might be a little bit longer. So I'm going to cut it there, and I'm going to hit O out here. And I could move this around like with my hand too, or you could use just hit O and you could just have it wherever you need it. I have no idea. Just go with like right there. I'm going to hit this comma, insert it into my clip. So now I have that my first clip. Now I'm going to go to my second clip because this is step 2. And then I'm going to hit spacebar. And then I'm going to hit I here. I'm going to move this to the very end. Oh. So I'm going to hit comma, and now I inserted my 2 clips. As you can tell, like, you can't really see them, so remember that you have this down here to make it to zoom in or out. So I'm going to zoom out a little bit so I could see the clips back to back a little bit better. And then within these 2 clips, I could add my text box into it, and I say like step 1 on here or step 2, and then, you know, keep building. That's stop. Step 1, and then I'm going to move this to the corner just a little bit more, and then I'll move this to the very beginning, and, you know, just keep building with all your clips. Add transitions in between if I wanted to, but otherwise a simple jump cut is, which is what it's going to happen right now, is as effective, because as you can tell, it's just very smooth that way. Once you have all your clips, you know, built, and you have all your video how you want it from what you could see in here, make sure you have this box highlighted when you export, because if you have this highlighted, that means it's going to export this clip. So make sure you have your timeline highlighted, and you can tell by the blue outline all the way around it. You're going to go to File, Export, Media, and then you'll be able to see your entire clip on here. With this, the clip right here is about 31 seconds, which is about right. So I want to change my format to H.264, not the Blu-ray version, just the regular version. It automatically changed my presets to that. The output name, if I click on that, I could choose what I want to name it as, like final video, and then send it wherever I want to send it, so like the desktop or wherever it may be. And then I have these 2 selected, and then this you could leave all on its own, and then you're going to hit export, and then it will export there. So for this video, since 31 seconds is about a minute and a half, it's about every minute of a video, it's about 4 minutes of exporting. So if you have a 2-minute video, it's about 8 minutes. A 1-minute video, it's about 4 minutes. And it also depends on like the format of the video, but H.264, that's how it usually is. So if you see your video exporting and it takes about like 20 minutes, I would definitely ask someone to see if there's a better format so that it doesn't take as long, because that is way too long. So around 5-6 minutes, anything past like 10 minutes is probably way too long, and I would ask for help with that.